Because if you notice in the beginning of the video, they were very like, just tell us, oh, you're not going to answer? And no. Like, normally when you tell somebody to step back from you, another adult, like, oh, okay, man. Oh, okay. I don't want to scare you. Okay, I'll back up. No, he just told me it's a public property, and the answer is no, he wasn't going to back up. The fact that they came to my door tells me they have some reach,
Yeah, that's something, man. I bet you never imagined that an online video would lead to a real life encounter.
Not at all, and it's like, no, that's just white people who can't accept that when I get pulled over and you get pulled over, it's a totally different experience.
Peeps, today we sat down with another Diddy victim. This time a TikTok influencer by the name of Sam, who's close friends with actress Tiffany Haddish. He tells a story of how Diddy's goons pulled up on him at his home. Now it's easy to see why a lot of his victims are in fear for their lives, with him putting in multiple bail requests. He clearly wants revenge on everybody speaking out against him. Now this is an interview that you don't want to miss.
Sam, now you recently actually went viral and you managed to get a whole interaction on tape. You got the whole interaction on tape. Tell us about what happened that day you were visited by those individuals.
Sure. And it's so funny too, because everybody always says visited. And, now that we have like aliens that I guess are here on Earth, I'm like, it sounds like I got visited by aliens. And it felt like that because I was literally I'm up in my studio now, and I was just doing some work, and I went downstairs just for a minute to get some water, and I just went outside of my backyard, and I hear a guy looking like there's like my gate, and there's like little slits through the gate, and he's like, "Hey, are you the social media influencer Samson?" I was like, man, I was like, who's playing a joke on me? Because I had my friend, do you know the comedian Donnell Rawlings? Ashley Larry from Chappelle Show. So he was coming over because I produce his podcast. So I thought it was maybe him, and he had some weird friend with him who was playing a prank on me. But then when I realized it wasn't him, I was like, okay, it was weird, scary, compelling. I'm like, it was just a lot in one feeling. And so my first instinct was, okay, Sam, this isn't a friend who stopped by to prank you. My house is not that easy to find, and people don't just stop by my house unannounced like that. So I knew, my senses told me, okay, this could be something dangerous or whatnot. And then also, I'm a content creator, so both those brains are like, film before you open that gate to talk to these guys, start filming.
I don't know why. I'll explain.
No, you're at my home.
Okay, so you don't want to talk to us then?
Have I broken some law?
Absolutely not.
And you have the thin blue. This is frightening. I think, can you guys step away from my home?
No, we're in a public street, so the answer is no. But I'm really not trying to give you a hard time.
Why are you here? What do you mean? You're showing up at my house.
We're very nice and respectful, and we will be. I just have two quick questions for you, and if you want to be interested in it, great. If not, I'll have a nice day. We're not...
What is this? This is odd.
So...
You have to admit this is very weird.
It always is, and people always ask us the same questions. I'm happy to explain to you. So
what?
Very simply, we were just hired to speak to a few people that do, have a lot of followers and stuff like that on different platforms.
What, is this about the Diddy stuff I report on?
Somewhat, yes.
And that's exactly what I did. And I'm so thankful for it, because I keep saying nobody would have believed me if I'm like, hey, I got visited by 2 private investigators about my Diddy videos. People are like, Sam, you're lying just to try and get views and stuff like that. So the fact that I filmed the entire 6-minute interaction, it was just such a blessing, because I was like, nobody would believe it. I still don't even quite believe it. It's kind of weird, because I'll get messages from people like, stay safe, Sam, we're praying for you and all this. And I'm like, I'm a comedian. So, as like an influencer, and all this stuff, it's like, of course you want views, you want followers, you want attention. But I'm like on this fence of like, how far do I go in on this Diddy stuff? Because they know where I live. They came to my house, and I tell people that's the scariest part about it overall, is their message was, we know where you live.
Not necessarily Diddy stuff, but people are involved and just stuff like that. So basically, a very simple question is are you paid to influence that's stories like that in any direction?
No, not at all.
That's all we wanted to know. Because if the company is, they're looking into people who are.
Are you guys gonna pay me for this visit? Like, this is frightening.
So,
like, I'm super. You have to admit, if I came to your house, and like, I thought this was a joke. I thought, I have a friend coming over business right now. Like, this is extremely weird for me. I have 100,000 followers. I'm not making any money.
That's one of the reasons why we're here, and that's the question that we're asking. If someone contacts you, say in the last 6 months, and is paying you to influence in a certain way,
no,
either one way.
Is it illegal if somebody would have?
So the answer is no.
Okay, I wish somebody would have. I'd love to be making real money off this.
Let me talk for 2 seconds. I'll explain to me. Try to make you feel better.
I mean, this is terrifying.
Very simply, if somebody was paying you,
right?
The company we work for, just asking that question,
right?
If somebody was, they would just be willing to possibly offer you money to know who and see what's going on.
Well, they're paying me $1 million. Will you guys give me $2 million? I'm joking, but seriously, this is very odd. You guys came to my house. It makes me feel slightly good that maybe I'm getting some notoriety for this, but this is crazy. So now I'm like, just trying to figure it out. I haven't stopped doing my Diddy stuff because I'm like, everybody else is doing it and they have way bigger followings than I do. And the big question, like when I was on TMZ, Harvey said, why you, Sam? And that's honestly the part I've been trying to figure out. Like, this other influencer, Amala, got a lot of attention. She's been on a lot of shows, and they just went to her old apartment and she talked to them on speakerphone. But it's a lot different when two grown-ass men are feet away from you, and you can see in the video, I'm kind of freaking out. Can you please back up? And the bigger guy is like, well, it's a public street, so the answer is no. And then the other dude, I'm like, what is going on? He's like, oh, so you're not going to answer our questions? So it was like those two things were, and people are like, oh, you talk too much, or you to them, you should have just not talked to them. But it's like, part of me was like, no, let them give you this information. Let them tell you what's going on. And it was just, I don't know. It's such a weird experience, just even to this moment, that I'm trying to really process and get my brain around what happened. Because it honestly, it felt like a movie. It felt more fake and like I was in some prank show than anything. And they were just so subtly threatening. And one person commented when they're watching the video, like, they continue to surround me. So they're like, these guys are tactical or police or something. And, their big question they had for me was, is a company paying you to make these Diddy videos or other celebrity videos that I've been doing? And of course, my answer is no. Am I at any danger for doing this?
Zero. The only time you would ever have any liability is if you said, I know for a fact this person raped it.
No, yeah. No, all of I'm satire. I'm a comedian.
And you say allegedly.
I always say, wow, I'm shocked that I've never had fans come visit me. I'm just filming you guys because this freaked me out.
I'll tell you why. Because everything you do is real. And so many things are just bots.
Right.
So we got a list of about 15 people.
Interesting.
That only post themselves.
Wow.
And we're just trying to find out if people are paying for the story to be pushed.
Got it.
Listen, everybody talks about it.
Okay.
I'm not an influencer whatsoever.
Right.
Guess what? Me and my friends talk about it once in a while.
Right.
Oh, you got
right, and I understand. I'm not looking to spread misinformation, and TikTok docks you very quickly. If I've had videos that are like, oh, that sounds threatening or this and that, but well, can I get your guys' information just so if I have something that comes up, I can contact you guys?
So to be honest,
no,
we can't give out our company because
okay.
they don't want to be linked to anybody.
Got it.
My name is Robert James.
Okay, Robert.
Peter Deegan.
Okay, cool. This is crazy.
Agreed. And again, we were going to sit out here.
No, that's fine. Yeah, it's my cat Crunchy. I hope my wife is impressed. I mean, I just hope I'm trying to be a successful comedian. I would love, but it is freaky that you guys come to my back door. This is kind of crazy. And to which their reply is, and I'm like, well, so what does that mean? And they're like, well, if somebody was paying you, the company we're working for would be interested in finding out who's paying you, who's the company, and then they would be interested in paying for that information and then pay me more to pretty much stop making the videos. And it's funny, a lot of friends, everybody's like, why didn't you just tell them? Yeah, I work for Schlaustein and Schlaustein Company. Give me $1 million. And you're like, these are dudes that came to my, you know, it's not like you can just give somebody a fake name. Like, okay, awesome. Where do we send the money to? Like, it would have had to be legitimately I was being paid to give them information. And even if, say, I was being paid, I think I'd still be terrified to be like, oh, here's this. And like, you know, giving up, I don't know. So it is, man, because it's not like in LA, you can just go somewhere else or anywhere. It's not like you can just move.
Right.
So I'm kind of in this space where I'm like, well, I just hope that was all they wanted to know. And that's what it kind of felt like when people were like, Sam, why did you keep talking to them? Because instinctually I wanted to, what's the word? Like de-escalate the situation. Because if you notice in the beginning of the video, they were very like, just tell us, you know, oh, you're not going to answer? And no, like normally when you tell somebody to step back from you, another adult, like, oh, okay, man. Oh, okay. I don't want to scare you. Okay, I'll back up. No, he just told me it's a public property and the answer is no, he wasn't going to back up. So it was very threatening in the beginning. And so I was just trying to de-escalate it to get to that point where I was like, okay, I felt good. Like you can hear in the end of the video, you know, I'm like, am I in danger? And they're like, no, you know, and, you know, pretty much I think they got the information, what they wanted to get. So I hopefully feel like that's the end of it. But there's just no way to know, you know?
Now there was a question that I thought of as well while you were speaking. And you said, and I think you answered it pretty much. You said it's pretty difficult to move. So at this point, you're not gonna move, or
no? I mean, I have other house I could go to, but it's just, you know, yeah. I mean, not really. So it's just kind of I don't know, you're left to just hope that was all that, you know, was going to happen. And, you know, it's hard because, of course, I'll have some TikTok commenters and people who, and, you know, on like social media, people kind of believe more than what you realize. You know, I won't call people ignorant or dumb or anything like that, but they believe what they see online. And so it's hard to decipher. People are like, Sam, you know, stay safe. Don't, you know, they're getting the pneumonia out and all this, and they're other, you know, people have disappeared and this. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, I'm not interested in ending up in those kind of categories. You know, like I said, I'm a stand-up comedian. You know, I'm at the Hollywood Improv this Wednesday, you know, hosting a big comedy show. And, you know, the Improv was even like, Sam, are you still okay to do the show? And I'm like, yeah, man. So it's kind of cool in a way. It's given me people the idea that there's a sense of danger around me performing now. So I don't mind, you know, I got this little bit of a gangster rap allure to me, you know, even though I'm a corny looking white boy. But it's like just trying to figure that out, you know, like, yeah, I can't go anywhere. So do I stop making all these Diddy videos? And when I see everybody else doing it every day, I'm like, well, I don't know. And then, like I said, it goes back to why me? I have 130,000 followers on TikTok. I only have 5 on Instagram, 5 on YouTube. It's not like I'm some huge social media star.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why do you feel like you were targeted specifically?
The only thing I can gather is the way I'm saying the things that I'm saying. So I'll see a lot of other influencers like, so here's what happened. Here's what happened. Here's the allegations. Where I'm like throwing jokes on it. I'm throwing attitude into it. I am being emotional in my videos where I think, you know, a lot of people are regular, you know, some dude in Ohio who picked up his phone and started doing news now has 500,000 followers. And so he just does that. But I've been a comedian entertainer for over 20 years. So I think the way I perform it, the way I deliver it, I also did a No Diddy song that I don't know if you saw that, but I'm like, is that rocking at the jailhouse? And Diddy is like, get this guy, you know, I'm like, I don't know. It's still kind of a mystery to me Like the other woman, Amala, who was visited, she has 500,000 like you on YouTube. She's a big social media influencer, so that made a little more sense. But for me, I don't know, maybe because I've just been going in on celebrities and not really, because I didn't feel like anybody was listening to me, maybe I was going in a little harder. And now I realize, like, oh, when they came to my door, I was like, Sam, people are listening. So for better or worse, you know?
Right. Yeah, those videos definitely can oftentimes reach high places. Now, with your
Mm-hmm.
comedian friends and your celebrity friends, of course, you
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch. What are they
Sure.
saying about the interaction and the video content that you make?
I mean, a lot of them are, you know, supportive and everything. I've asked advice, like, you know, one of my good friends is Tiffany Haddish, and you know, I called her and I was like, "Yo, man, they came to my back door," and she was like, "That is crazy, Sam. That is, you know," and I think comedians look at it almost like, "Hey, Sam, you're breaking, you're getting attention. So for us, this is like that's all we want is for people to." You know, invite me on your show like you're doing, or and book me at your comedy club, or this and that. um, I have a friend, Chris Spencer, is a big comedian, who, you know, I was on set with him last weekend, and it's kind of cool because I'm like, hey, I'm the influencer that got, you know, visited by, you know, private investigators, by Diddy, whoever sent them. And so everybody was like, oh, you know, so it's given me this kind of allure where people are like, oh shit, they want to talk to me. I'm getting booked a little more. So most of my comedian friends are very supportive of it. They're not like, Sam, you need to stop. I know it's, you know, you don't want to deal with these type of people. Um, so it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's a very hard line to ride, you know, but my goal is to ride this out into stand up, you know, into clubs and everything, and kind of get past some of this Diddy reporting. Like I love reporting news and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I want to get to like a little safer place in my career.
I imagine that would give you a lot of content, man, to or a lot of material to be on
Yeah.
stage.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. Like, you know, this, like I said, this Wednesday at the Improv, they were like, are you sure? Is it okay for you to perform? So I'm like, just that alone is like creating this like mystique, which I think is kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it's just, um, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's just, yeah, people are, you know, they're reaching out. They're like, are you okay, Sam? Everybody's checking in on me, which has been cool. But also, I'm like, I feel fine and normal. I'm like, should I be paying more attention to this? Because I get the crazy people on TikTok and in my comments who are like, dude, I had Diddy people visit me. They were very, you know, some guy literally just today, he's like, shake your phone in your ear. Do you hear a rattling? It means it's tapped. And I'm like, I heard a click. I'm like, it's my fucking, I thought my phone was, I don't know if my phone's tapped. I thought it was, you know, like I was talking to this woman, an actress who was in my No Diddy music video. And she goes, what was that noise? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I heard this like lightning bolt. It sounds like my phone's being tapped. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, so it's just feeding in. I'm not a paranoid person, but it's really feeding the paranoia of like, how far is the fact that they came to my door tells me they have some reach, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's something, man. I bet you never imagined that an online video would lead to a real life encounter.
Not at all. And it's funny, I keep saying, you know, there's all these white conservative comedians, the Tony Hinchcliffes, the Joe Rogans, and all these guys are like, oh, comedy's under fire, free speech is under fire. And I'm just like, when have you guys had two random private investigators pull up to your home about one of your comedy videos? You know what I mean? So I'm like, y'all can just shut up. You know what I mean? Like, as far as I know, I'm one of the only comedians or comedy influencers that, from what I've said, has translated to somebody actually coming and trying to get me to stop. So, you know, I feel like Lenny Bruce a little bit, or, you know, back in the day when, you know, he was cursing. You know, Lenny Bruce is a famous comedian, you know, way back in like the 60s, who was the first one to use F words and cuss. And the government was like, you can't do that. And, you know, so he was branded as this kind of controversial comedian. um, but yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I don't really let it get to me too much. And I'm just trying to, like I said, move forward and kind of pass this and hope that is the last visit that I'll be getting, you know?
Yeah, man, that's some terrifying stuff, man. But you seem like you handling it pretty well.
I guess so. I don't know. That's why I just don't know if I'm dumb. You know what I mean? Like, I've spoken with my lawyers and stuff like that. I have private investigators too that I've, talked to try and check up. I've had people even, check on those guys' plates and they couldn't find anything on it. So,
Wow.
And if you look at those two guys, they look like law enforcement. One of the guys, he actually had that thin blue line hat with the American flag, and it had a Florida handle in it. You know what I mean? Which is interesting because, you know how it is. Some people are like, "Oh, the thin blue line, that's we support police," but other people also know it was kind of a counter to the Black Lives Matter movement to show I'm not with BLM, I support the police. And it has, people be like, "Oh, Sam, you're race baiting," and they love to say that shit. And I'm like, but the real of it is, if people know, like, that thin blue line was created as a bit of a threat, you know what I mean? So when I saw it, you can hear in the video, I go, "Wait, you have that thin blue?" Like, I was freaking out because I was like, "Shit, man, these are, they look like dangerous men. They look like men who, if they wanted, they could have fucked me up pretty easily."
Yeah, especially if you weren't recording, man, they probably would have tried something.
That's what I'm wondering. I wonder, and that was, again, a big reason for me hitting that record button, because I was like, okay, at least this has to keep them at bay a little bit. And a lot of people originally were like, "Hey, Sam, is this staged? Is this fake? Why would they let you just film them?" And in my head the whole time, because when I came out, you can see I had the phone here and I'm just filming them. They could see them. Like, I was making it obvious I was filming, but then once we got into the talk, I'm just keeping it here at my chest. And so that was the part. It even seemed unreal to me. Even how much information they gave up was surprising to me. But I also think it was an overall message to all influencers. I think they were actually happy I took the video, and maybe that's why they were allowing it, because they knew I would because I was wondering, should I upload this? But then, of course, my friend was like, "Dude, you have to. You have to show what just happened." And of course, that video is close to like 1 million views now and everything. But yeah, that was the unbelievable part, is that I was filming them and that they were giving me so much information.
Now, how do you think they actually got your address to find you?
I think just on Google. Like, since then, I've scrubbed my address and information as much as I can from the internet. But I think too, like, these are guys who have connections to probably, different websites that they know how to get my address. But that's kind of the scary thing about all of us. We don't realize all of our information's online. Who your family is. If you Google your name, if you don't, do one of those apps that scrubs your shit, I did it and I was like, "Oh shit, my number's up there. Oh, my ad," so it's a lot easier to just find somebody than you think. But these guys definitely seem to be some sort of private investigators or law enforcement that I'm sure they're able to get into directories and, so yeah.
And is it your belief that they were hired by Diddy?
I can't even be positive about that, because in the video, if you listen, they say, I was like, "Is this about my Diddy videos?" And they're like, "Well, yeah." And then some other celebrities and stuff. So, I've connected a lot of, because online you're like, "Oh, today I'm taking down Leonardo DiCaprio because he was in a picture at Diddy part." And so a lot of it is for the clickbait of it a little bit, I'm realizing what works. So I can't say for certain that it was Diddy. It's a lot probably sexier to everybody to think that's exactly where it came from. But it could have been a list of any other celebrities that I've kind of been talking about that are just letting me know. Like, I mean, everybody. I've done videos, Leo, Elon Musk, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Trump, Kamala, during the election stuff. Ashton Kutcher, I did a big one on him. DJ Khaled, I've been going in on DJ Khaled and his kind of funny relationship with Diddy, because there's this one video where they're like, "How did you guys meet?" And it's Diddy and Khaled, and And Diddy's like, well, we can't talk about that. Some things you just can't talk about. I'm like, well, what happened? You guys can't talk about it. And Diddy's like, let's just say he got his trunk full. Yeah, we filled his trunk. He got a trunk full. And I'm like, I don't know. When another man fills another man's trunk, what do you think that means? And so it could have been that. It could be, it could be DJ Khaled's people. There's so many people now that I look back on the videos like, oh man, you've been talking a lot of shit, Sam. Like Steve Harvey, I made a video about him and my style has changed because I started off like, nobody's listening to me, Sam. Just fucking say what you want. And so now I realize people are listening. So I've kind of toned it down, or definitely allegedly, you have to always throw that in there,
So now you're a bit more mindful with the kind of content you put out there.
A little bit, yeah. And I'm very mindful because, in my early stages of Secret Service, Sam, I'm like, I was there. I had somebody working the party, and all this shit. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, so I got to be like, okay, Sam, you have to be careful about saying that because people believe when I started this character, it was after the first Trump assassination attempt, it was fucking ear. And I come, and I was doing a sketch in the Oval Office, with somebody. And so when we were done with the sketch, I was like, took my phone. I was like, everybody was saying we didn't do our job. I did my job. I jumped on our president. What have you done for our country? And I'd be like, what? And so that sparked the character. And that was like in August. And it went viral. And then I was doing all my other stuff. And then I figured out, all right, let's just do a video on Diddy as this character saying I was Secret Service and I was there. And that's when I started to see, oh, shit, people are paying attention to this character. Let's keep rolling with it. And so, yeah, it's just funny how people believe I'm a Secret Service agent, and so it's this kind of thing of, and on my page it says I'm a comedian, because I talked to my lawyer and you're like, you don't want to be impersonating a federal, law enforcement. So I have to be very clear about that on my video, on my page. But so, yeah, like I said, it's just so weird because people really think I'm in the Secret Service, so it's just kind of,
well, it kind of makes sense. Cause how TikTok, if they're like just scrolling down, it looks like, they're not reading the name.
No. And it looks like it too. Yeah. They're not coming to my profile. They're scrolling. They're like, because you've seen like Gene Deal or these other bodyguards who've kind of been leaking this tea and everything on the Diddy stuff. We all take it for, oh, that guy is his bodyguard and he was, you take it. It's even like all these aliens visiting. There's like, I did a video today where they have this footage of what is supposed to be the aliens. But I'm like, isn't that CGI? Is it AI? Like you're like, that couldn't be real, right? That's so, but you're not totally convinced it's not real. It's still open to the possibility. So, yeah.
As far as right now, Sam, are you in fear for your life with all that happening to you?
I mean, no. But again, that's kind of the hard part. I don't know if I should be. And that's the scariest part is I don't want to be naive to this, but I mean, no, I mean, not immediately. I don't feel, when it just happened, of course, when I was like walking around my neighborhood, I'm like looking at everybody all suspicious and shit. And I'm like, is that old lady working for Diddy walking her dog? So I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of on this in-between thing where I don't want to be naive. The last thing I want to do is be naive because I haven't made really any money off this shit that, nothing's worth my life. Right. So that's the part I'm just still meandering through of, yeah, should I feel like I am in more danger than I am, and it's just, it's almost impossible to know,
They definitely remain vigilant, not so much paranoia, but of course you want to remain vigilant, especially if
right.
Have your address and they pulled up.
Yeah. Like I got security cameras, like I scrub my address. I always keep my shit locked. It's, yeah, just like those simple things that you can do. I'm a little more aware of like people say, keep your head on that swivel. I'm more aware of my surroundings, but I'm also like, I don't want to like live in fear or anything. And like I said, I can't really go anywhere. So at some point I can't, and I don't want, any of my family to worry about me and stuff like that.
Get you a couple of AK-47s. That wouldn't hurt either,
Nah, yeah, right. Yeah. And you're in Florida. You can do that here in
Oh, yeah.
LA. And that's also something like, for example, shit, if those guys had stepped on my property in Florida, you fucking shoot them,
It's over with.
but here in LA, like you can't, sure, we got guns, but you can't just shoot somebody necessarily even on your property. You have to kill them in LA, because if you don't, they can then sue you and you can get in trouble. Yeah. LA laws are very weird about, you guys have stand your ground, where obviously like fucking what's his name, George Zimmerman went after Trevion Martin and shot him, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, but in LA, the nice thing about in California too is like, I'm from Missouri, you go to Missouri, everybody has a gun. You go to Florida, you're like, everybody could be packing here. And so the only comforting thing in California, at least, I'm like, not everybody is carrying a gun. Yeah, like there's gangs and shit like that. But by and large, it's not like, oh, that old man at Costco is packing a Glock and, like, so, but yeah, I can't own an AK-40, I can't even buy, you can't have that type of shit here. So,
I was naive, man. Like you said, Florida, man, we can, go down to the little fair and, they have gun shows and shit, man. I got
yeah, you guys can
several.
fucking buy it. Yeah, there's liquor stores that are gun shops also. They're like, get a bottle of Jim Beam and a Glock and have a good day. And we don't care. With no background check, sure, buy a gun, So, yeah, maybe if I was in Florida, I'd feel a little bit more protected,
Gotcha. Well, if you ever want to move, man, always come to Florida, man, and
Ha!
get your
I know.
NRA card and all that, man. You'll be good to go.
Yeah, exactly. I told you, yeah, I got a place out there, so I think about it sometimes, because I love to do, I'm gonna do a comedy show out in Miami with D. Ray Davis, so I love getting out to Florida, do comedy. But yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no problem, man. So how did you end up with so many black comedian friends? It seems like you have a lot of them.
Yeah, it's funny. I started my career. I don't know if you know Guy Torrey and Joe Torrey.
I know Guy Torrey, man. He was down in Tampa at the Improv, and he actually was making a joke about me. I was right in the front row, and he kept saying my name. He had the whole audience saying my name. It was like, Lionel. I was like, yeah. So yeah, Guy, he's funny.
Guy is he's like an older brother to me. He's one of my best friends out here. Joe Torrey, because I'm from St. Louis, so and they are. So Guy gave me my start at the Comedy Store in his improv sketch group called the PCP, and that was like, in that sketch group, it's actually where Nick Cannon would come and sit in our shows at the Comedy Store, and he got the idea for Wild 'N Out from watching our sketch and improv troupe. And so that's always where I've been welcomed, is in the black community of comedy. And for me too, I just feel like those are the best rooms, you know what I mean? Like I play all rooms and I can play anything. But I just prefer, a diverse audience mostly, but I love black audiences because if you're funny, the whole place is rolling. It's the loudest roar you will hear out of any audience. And if you're not funny, it's quiet. It is the quietest. White people are more like more polite laughers. Well, they'll laugh at everything, but they won't let themselves get like falling out of their seats and shit and hilarity. And so that's just always been the community that's kind of taken me in. I was telling somebody today, it's like, I'm trying to cross over into white comedy rooms. I'm white and Jewish. I'm about I look like fucking all-American dude, Jewish. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? That I'm not wildly famous or whatever. And, but it's like, I wouldn't change anything, but it's funny. The only time I get booked at the Hollywood Improv, it's always on the black nights. I never get booked on white nights anywhere. And that's why I'm always so thankful and supportive to the black community, because, it's given me so much love and support. And I am the comedian I am because of the black community. My whole styling has been, born out of all that. So Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. I joke sometimes, people are like, "Hey Sam, do you know a white guy? We need him for a sketch." I'm like, I barely know any white people out here in LA. That's
That's
funny.
funny, man, for real.
But yeah, I just love the community. And then, I'm an underdog, and I've always been a fan of the underdogs, and especially the black comedy community is so underserved in Hollywood. You have to be a white adjacent black person to get along with the popular, the majority of white people, because most white people they're not coming to assimilate in your space. They want you to come to their space and assimilate. And they're like, yeah, I got a black friend. Look, there's Tony. I'm like, yeah, but you don't realize Tony's having to assimilate to you. He's having to listen to all your racist bullshit and not saying any. So like a lot of white people aren't even getting any kind of a black experience. You know what I mean? Like, and I hate to, like, I saw Tony Hinchcliffe. He's on Bert Kreischer's podcast. Like, so I was doing this black room in LA, and it's gang, 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 like super dangerous. And ASAP Rocky's in the audience, and I went off on him. And then my manager calls me, "Did you just go off on ASAP Rocky?" And I'm like, that type of shit makes me so upset, because why do we have this stereotype? Why is it terrifying? People, when I would open for Tiffany, I had this white lady in Missouri, like, isn't that terrifying? It's an all black audience. Why? Why? I always make the joke, it's more terrifying for a black person to perform in front of an all white audience, because there's the better chance there's a mass shooter in that audience. You know what I mean? So it's just these old stereotypes, and white comedians, that's the thing I crack up on. They pat themselves so hard on the back for doing one black show. And you're just like, dude, you're not courageous. You're just fucking racist. You know what I mean? You're perpetuating this idea, like, black people should be terrified of white people. You know what I mean? Like, everything we've done to black people for 400 years, why would black people be terrified, or why would white people be terrified of black people?
I think about that all the time, man. It's like, when I go into a store and I purchase something, and I get the looks, and I'm like, you ain't got to be afraid of me. I even had a white lady actually take off running. I was at the mall buying shoes, and I was heading back to my car, and she thought I was following her, so she just took off running, dude. And she's like trying to get in her car, and I'm just looking like, what the? And mind you, my hands are full of clothes and shit. Like,
Yeah, what am I gonna do,
my bags and
lady?
just go
What,
take it. Come
Pew, pew. Right. No, but it's this fear of a black planet. You know what I mean? It's this old, it's the same reason, like, not to get political, but Donald Trump is protecting whiteness. You know what I mean? Like, people won't really admit to it, but the core of what I believe, say, oh, economy and gas price and all this, but a core of it is he's protecting whiteness. That's what he says, make America great again, is let's make it great again for white people, because we're kind of scared because these minorities are coming up on us. And all that stuff is just trash, because, I was telling my son yesterday, the black community is one of the most forgiving on the planet, because black people should hate all white people for the history and what we have in this country of what we've done to, the black community, and how, the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps after we blew up your neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, so I'd say too, and I don't, you don't hear a lot of white people talking like I do.
on. Nah,
I
never,
realize I'm unique,
never.
but a lot of it is my black experience. You know what I mean? Because I've been in these rooms and spaces my whole career, I've had to go through and hear, I've had to say stuff that was racist, or Sam, I had a friend, Daphne Springs. She's a comedian, hilarious. And I always remember, it was like, ooh, Daphne, I don't want to make you mad. And she's like, why? Why are you saying that? Like, why? Because you think a black woman is gonna be, I was like, okay, that's a good, and I'm always learning, like 101 is don't touch a black woman's hair. You know what I mean? Like, these are just simple, like, but there's a starting point as a white person assimilating into black culture, that you have to let yourself get in and make mistakes. And I think that's the thing, is people are too scared to get in. Even when I'm in a room with all, and I'm the only white person, I largely don't even recognize it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm Sam and I'm just in there. And, I wish more white people shared my views. Like, when I talk about white privilege, they're like, oh, you're race bait. And it's like, no. It's like if you could just sit there and admit that somebody who looks like me, no white lady was gonna run from me in a parking lot. I know that for a fact. You know what I mean? The way I look, I could have had a gun on me, pointed at her, and she would have been like, "Who's that guy?" You know what I mean? Like, and I just recognize that, and I think a lot of it is because I put myself in the experience, and a lot of ways to experience racism as a white person is you have to walk into the Ritz-Carlton with your black friend and see how everybody looks at you. I did that. I had a producer, Latoya Rucker. She's Miss United States, Miss West Coast. She won Miss, I think, Universe. Like, she's won all 3 huge pageants she's been in. And she was a producer working for me in St. Louis. And we walk into the Ritz-Carlton and people were gawking because she's tall, bodacious, beautiful. She's taller than me. And people really thought, like, I went to this restaurant and I overheard the owner, like, who are they? Who are they? And I was sitting next to these 2 white prominent lawyers that I was working for, and she was too, but they didn't know we were together. And the owner of the restaurant, it's his restaurant in Tony's in St. Louis, this racist owner is like, get them out of here. Who are they? What are they doing here? Because he thought I was with a prostitute.
Damn.
Which is sad. And it's sick, and I didn't even fully realize these things. I didn't realize how racist my hometown really was because I always walked around it like me and with my white friends. But when you walk around, with your minority friends, you quickly realize the difference.
Yeah, Missouri, man. That's your hometown, right? Missouri. Yeah, that's one of the worst, man. Like, especially those little rural towns. One of my exes, she had to go there for a training assignment, and she said she got so many dirty looks. And one guy tried to run her off the road, like some little dirt road they were on. I was like, man,
crazy. No, it's everybody always thinks of the South and all that, but no, Missouri has a ton. It's because it's like Chicago. There's segregated Midwest cities. Where white people on this side, black people on this side, and the only time they'll get together is like, oh, Damien from work. I'm not racist. I know Damien in accounting. It's like, well, have you had him and his family over at your house for dinner? Have you broke bread with other families, with gay people, Mexican people, Asian people? You know what I mean? That's how racism lives, is when you just hear about cultures through stereotypes. And like, getting back to those conservative white comedians, if you look at like Kill Tony with Tony Hinchcliffe, anytime he's got Cam Patterson, David Lucas, he gives space for 2 black comics. And every joke they make about him is largely, I saw Adam Ray was on there. He's a big comedian. He's talking about Cam Patterson. He's like, oh shoot, I thought you were going to rob me. It's all level 101 racist jokes. I thought you were going to rob me. Thought you were going to steal my bike. Thought you were that black kid selling candy at the grocery store. It's not like real when you have an experience, and then you can make real jokes about the culture that you from an understanding. And so that just, like, I don't know, it annoys me because it's like white conservative comedy is very popular right now. And, a lot of these black comics don't realize they're being used. Like, I saw Jamar Neighbors. He's a black comic who's really big, really successful. He was on this guy, what's his name? Kurt Metzger's podcast. And they make a joke they lead him into a joke to saying the N-word. And you're like, is that just the only reason you have a black comic on? So, because then the content skews towards that. So we can hear things that you're going to say, well, laugh at. And so, it's like a Candace Owens. It's like a Tim Scott. It's like, and people are like Herschel Walker. Like, yeah, see, that's how I wish black people, he gets it. You're like, no, he's just a paid pawn. Like, white people love to hear black people say racist white talking.
Right. We used to call that term back in the day shucking and jiving. That's like an old South term. Yeah, man. Yep.
That's like, Terry Crews. I was telling my son about this morning. black men are emasculated on television and film. That's how Hollywood, they love a black man who's gay. You know, if you look at all TV, look at like Abbott Elementary, you know, like that's a great show. But, you know, one of the lead on there is soft spoken, you know, like, you know, Terry Crews, he's huge, muscular, but he's like, hey, how's it going? Because he has to play that up so white America is palatable and like, oh my God, that is a big, strong black man who, if I saw out at night, they'd be running from him in the parking lot.
He has to play the role of the safe Negro.
Exactly. And I even like in comedy, people don't realize white adjacent black comics are the most successful by and large. There's Tiffany Haddish, James Davis, Earthquake, you know, Dave Chappelle, Donnell Rawlings. There is black comedians who are themselves and can transfer over, but mostly to be a black comic and be successful, you have to be the one comic in their white room. You know what I mean? And those are the guys that get on. And it's because, and this is part of the racism, those white comics think that they're open and everything. They don't realize they're only letting in white adjacent black comics who maybe went to an all white high school. So they know, they've been around white people all their life. They know what to say. They know, you know, they know how to assimilate compared to some people who haven't. You know, it's like a white person who's never been around black people. They say all this weird shit and they don't know how to act. So that's like a big even study of mine on this business is how being a black comic, you have to assimilate to white culture. And then, like I said, that's how they think, what? No, so-and-so is my friend. You're like, well, yeah, but that's one person you named for me. You know, like I hate when somebody's like, oh, Sam, I'm not anti-Semitic. My partners are Jewish. And I'm like, yeah, but you called me an anti-Semitic slur. That doesn't, I don't care how many Jewish friends you have. You know, like if you call somebody the N-word, I don't care if you have one black friend, that doesn't okay it. You know what I mean? But it's, you know, all this shit like that, was it Nick Bosa, you know, showed his MAGA hat, you know, during that one thing. But then they tell Kaepernick to shut up, you know, like they have no interest when he's just trying to be like, hey, black Americans are being killed unequally by police. And people are like, oh, Sam, you're race baiting, you know? And it's like, no, that's just white people who can't accept that when I get pulled over and you get pulled over, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, I got pulled over recently in Florida, and the cop was like talking on the little intercom. I couldn't even make out what the hell he was saying, and I'm like nervous to move the wrong way because you know.
Of course, as you should be. It could be your life. I never get pulled over and I'm worried about my movements. You know what I mean? Even sometimes I'll kind of, if I even act a little bit, you know, I know. Like I got pulled over in St. Louis recently, speeding. The officer comes in, you know, is like, hey, you know, do you know how fast you're going? I was like, oh, I don't know, officer. And he goes, Carol, is that you? To my mom. He knew my mom because she was at a Pilates studio and somebody hit her in the parking lot and she called the cops. And that was a police officer who were responding. He's like, hey, Carol, hey, Officer Quigley, how you doing? I was like, oh, I'm not getting a fucking ticket today. He gave me a warning.
Yeah, y'all get to cuss out the cops. Y'all get to threaten them and all that. If we even blink wrong, that's it for us, man.
Exactly. I was in St. Louis doing a weekend with Donnell, and we were hanging out in my friend's house. And I don't know what had happened. I was driving my mom's Porsche, and outside police had opened the door to my mom's car and are looking at it. And I go outside. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And Donnell's like, Sam, please don't talk to them. Like he's like hiding behind me. And he's like, I've never seen anybody talk. Cause I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing in my car? And like, well, is this your car? I'm like, of course it's my car. Like, what do you got? Here's the key. What do you get out of my car? You know? And it's just, you know, people don't get like, that's the privilege. And to admit to it, it doesn't take away your privilege. It just lets black people know that you understand. Like I hate how white people have bastardized the word woke. You know, woke is this whole thing. I hate hearing white people like, oh, I'm so tired of the woke. I'm like, woke was a thing black people would say, Sam, you're woke because you understand us. You understand the history. You care enough to understand what we're going through. That's woke. Woke is not this woke. No, It's like you're awake, you're aware of when injustice is happening and you can recognize and admit it. So I can't stand the way white people have taken the word woke and turned it into something terrible. They don't even know where it came from.
It's demonized now. Yeah, it's like a bad word now.
It's yeah, which is crazy because like that, I mean, you know, in the culture, it's like woke is a compliment. You know what I mean? It's just so stuff like that really gets to me. You know, like when I hear my white college friends, or I heard Ronnie Chang, he's that dude, Asian comic, on the Daily Show, like, yeah, I'm really sick of the woke culture. And I'm like, dude, and he was telling it to a black interviewer and all this shit. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you sick of? You know, you're sick of people just being aware of shit and calling it out. You know, so you know, you can hear I get frustrated by you know, I'm sure people and white people hate when I talk like this. You know,
they're gonna try to cancel you, bro.
Oh yeah, they love. Yeah, let them. You know, but that's my goal is with my platform, with my voice, is like I don't care. I don't, you know, as long as the black culture has my back and my fan base, that's all I need. You know what I mean? You're not going to be liked by everyone. The same in which these white conservative comedians have doubled down to just white Austin, Texas conservative people. Like that's their audience. You know what I mean? Like, you know, my audience is you know, everybody kind of but that. You know.
Yeah, we're sticking by you, Sam, man. We got your back, bro. No problem.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
You see what we did for Jim Carrey, man. Jim Carrey, man, he went up, bro.
Exactly. And you know, he's always been one of my comedy idols. And that's what I thought when I joined Guy Tori's group almost like 15 or more years ago. I thought I was going to blow up. I was like, I'm going to be Jim Carrey. I'm like, this is my slot. And I just realized the racism of the business that no, nobody's coming into these rooms to see you, Sam. You know what I mean? Like, so Jim Carrey is always a big, like, that's the goal with my career, you know, because I'm a hilarious film and television actor. I'm a sketch comedian. I'm one of the best improvisers. I freestyle rap, you know, in a lot of my sets, you know, so I'm, you know, it's like I'm ready to do something like that. But the hard part of my career has been like, oh, you know, I thought by now it would have hit. So that's just something, you know, that's what I'm always, you know, I never quit and I'm still working towards, you know, to be the next Jim Carrey, you know.
You gotta keep going, man, because they say, you know, overnight success sometimes it takes years, but once it's there, it's there, man.
It's there. I had my good friend Jay Lee, he had a shirt that said overnights success. Overnights with an S, you know, because it's not over one night, it's over nights and days and decades, you know.
And I kind of feel that way with YouTube. You know, it wasn't just one moment. You know, it took a little bit of grind. It didn't take a long time, but you know, once I kind of got my groove, man, it just skyrocketed from there. And I'm like, wow, like, damn, okay.
What would you say made you take off on YouTube? Like, what do you think? Why do you think people are drawn to you on there?
Man, just my consistency and also being able to like be innovative with the content I put out, and you know, I'm always like, if you watch some of my editing, you'll be like, it's things you probably wouldn't expect from like a blogger. So I really try to give people an experience when they watch my videos.
That's dope. And do you have, like you said in Florida, like you know, do you feel like it's very segregated there? You know, I'm in LA, which it's I love LA because like you can't really be racist unless you're in like the OC or out in the beach communities, because your everyday reaction, it allows me to have all these different friends that have taught me. You know, I say like, I'm not from Missouri anymore. I'm an Angelino now. You know, you know, the culture is the Mexican, the Latino culture, the Black culture, the Asian culture, like every single culture here. It's like you take it all in. But I wonder, like sometimes being in Florida, where that's got to be hard when you're like get looks from people and you're like, I probably make more money than you, motherfucker. And like, why do you assume because I'm gonna dress like this, or I have tattoos, or I fill this stereotype in your head? Like, is he a rapper or a gang member or an athlete? They can't say, is he a doctor, a dentist? You know, like
South Florida's a lot different. I mean, some parts are pretty racist, but for the most part, most parts of South Florida is pretty diverse because we have a huge population of just a mix of people. You know, people from Latin America, people from all over, pretty much. So now, where I'm originally from, North Florida, the Panhandle area, that is very segregated up there.
Wow.
You don't really see mixing of the neighborhoods, anything like that. Not at all. My
Right.
neighborhood is mixed, pretty much.
Right. And there's that mentality I notice, like when I'm in Missouri or in the South or something like that, there's a mentality that you don't see out of minorities who are like in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Like a Black person in LA in a way is much different than somebody in like rural Alabama. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the mindset, you realize the white people are like, you know, just for example, I went to this pool in Alabama, and the servers are all Black. It's majority white in the pool, right? Everybody. And like, oh, thank y'all. Could I have a diet soda? And I'm gonna order the cheeseburger. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. And that's how white people ingest Black people, in a safe environment where they're in charge, where they're above them. There's this superiority. And that's when white people start to get freaked out, is when it's no, like, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to sit, you know. And you see, like in Missouri, like when I was in the Ritz-Carlton, my Black producer friends even pointed out to me, Sam, they only have the lighter skin Black people as the wait staff, and there's darker skinned Black people in the kitchen. And I was like, what? I never even saw that until, and then I start looking around. I was like, oh shit, wow, this is crazy. You know what I mean? So it's like it goes back to being woke. That's what woke is listening to what people are telling you and then being like, oh wow, okay, I never even would have thought about this, but now I get it. And I'm not going to go back. Once I hear it, I remember it, and then you grow from there.
Just like the old days, they had the lighter skinned slaves inside the home, and then the darker ones was out in the fields. So
right. And a lot of white people don't understand that, or they don't, no, they wouldn't, they're not doing that, you know, because nobody wants to believe in racism, which is so weird. You know what I mean? Like, where everybody's racist, you know what I mean? Like, everybody has racial stereotypes in their head, the way we think about people. It's just a matter of if you can be like, you know, I learned early on, when I was in St. Louis, I was in 7th grade, and I'm going down an Escalator in the mall, and these group of Black kids are coming up the escalator, and I just go, hey, what's happening? The minute I turn around, this one dude reaches over the escalator and pops me in the fucking chin as hard as he could. And I was like, oh my God, that fucking guy hit me. And my friend jumps over the escalator and racing up after the guy, and security ends up catching the guy. And I'm in the office at the mall, and I see it. I was like, why did you do that, man? Why did you hit me? And they got it out of him that it was a gang initiation thing called knockout, where if you can knock somebody out on one punch, you're in the gang. So at least I kept somebody out of a gang. But it was an early experience for me. I could have taken that and said, oh my God, all Black people are going to try and hit me. If I see a group of Black guys, I need to go to the other side of the street. Or I could have chosen that. I was 13 years old. I could have chosen to have that be something that scarred and stayed with me. But what I realized, the blessing from that experience, was I realized that's just one person. Just because that one Black guy reached over and tried to knock me out does not mean you're going to. It doesn't, you know, so you, like, that's one thing I realized about racism. Just because you have a bad experience and some Jewish guy rips you off and doesn't tip you, that doesn't mean all Jewish people are cheap. You know what I mean? And so I realized you have to take everybody
as individuals.
As an individual, and you have to wipe that slate clean, and you can't say, oh, this happened to me years ago, so I'm going to assume he will too. And I think that's what's hardest for people to get over, is they might not even have had the experience, but if they're watching Fox News and, you know, even like, you know, during all the riots and Michael Brown, all that stuff, when they were calling thugs, that was the N-word. That was the way Fox News could call Black people the N-word. That whole, you know, you've noticed thugs is kind of faded out of now it's like woke, you know what I mean? Yep, but it's exactly. Like, they're just not calling you the N-word. They were calling them thugs. They weren't referring to anybody else, you know, but Black people. And so there's just all this like underlying coy, racism. And I just think if people could just, it's like they don't want critical race theory taught in our schools.
Right.
Why? Because you don't want to know that your grandma was on the postcard, Yeah. And it's facts, it's truth. And it's like, again, that's how we educate ourselves. That's how we become better people, and all these people who supposedly follow Jesus and, the ways, it's like, well, that's what Jesus would have done. You know what I mean? And it's like, so how do you go to your all white church and think you're really living by the ways of Jesus? You know what I mean? Like when you're not. So I don't know. It's deep.
But thank you so much, man, for enlightening our audience, man. It's definitely refreshing to see somebody that actually knows our struggle, the things we go through, and we're not, not being judgmental, man. So I definitely appreciate you,
Of
for
course.
giving our audience, man, that insight, because we never hear that from a white male,
Right.
ever.
Yeah, and that's the thing I realized. Okay, that's my superpower. You know what I mean? And that's what I really think will really explode me is the way I talk about this topic, because I never see anybody else talking about it. And it's sad to me because I'm like, dang, like out of all the entertainers, like how could I be the only one who gets it? And it's some part of that is sexy to me because I'm like, oh, Sam, I get compliments on it, but deep down inside, I wish this wasn't uncommon to hear a white person just acknowledge it, because if we all did, it doesn't change the privilege you get when you get pulled over. It's just, you're going to help to make it better for Black Americans, and hold police accountable by saying, hey, we realize this is different and this has to stop. All my socials are at Samson Crouppen, SAMSONCROUPPEN. Please follow me on YouTube. I'm trying to get to 10,000 followers. On TikTok, I'm Samson Crouppen 1 or Secret Service Sam. You can find me on there for all the latest Diddy updates and news and everything like that. I'm at the Hollywood Improv this Wednesday. Like I said, I'm hosting in the main room. So if you're in Los Angeles, hit me up. I might be able to get you some free tickets. And yeah, that's all my socials. Yeah. At Samson Crouppen is all of them pretty much.
All right, y'all. Make sure y'all follow my guy, man. And thank y'all for tuning in, man. Make sure y'all don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on the videos. Share these videos. And I'm going to keep y'all on the next one. Holla.